Hello, I'm Esther Gitu. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's comment on having an enemy within sparks a new wave of criticism by his opponents. Police clash with protesters in Mozambique as hundreds take to the streets to protest the killing of opposition lawyer. And the tiny kingdom of Lesotho becomes a source country for human trafficking, and women are most vulnerable. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. Recent comments by former U.S. President Donald Trump about America having a, quote, enemy within that needs to be dealt with is sparking a new wave of criticism by his opponents. The heated rhetoric that both the Republican and the Democratic presidential nominees use on the campaign trail comes with a warning from analysts. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias explains.
With early voting underway in several states, Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris addressed reporters Saturday, intensifying her criticism of her political opponent, former President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has proven himself to be increasingly unstable and unfit.
Harris has described Trump with those words repeatedly since the Republican presidential nominee made controversial remarks on Fox News on October 13th when interviewed about a potential second term in the White House. Trump was asked how he'd guard against bureaucrats undermining him. He replied, quote, "We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within." He added, "We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military." Trump later clarified he was referring to his Democratic opponents, but repeated similar claims when interviewed on October 16th by the Wall Street Journal. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican, was asked on ABC's This Week show to share his opinion on Trump's remarks.
Nobody likes that type of stuff and that type of hyperbole. But let's look, he was president for 4 years. Did he go after his political enemies? I don't think he's going to go and weaponize. He didn't do it the first term. He's not going to necessarily do it this term.
The increasingly heated rhetoric used by both presidential candidates to blast each other isn't necessarily a winning formula to sway votes. Political analyst Shannon O'Brien told VOA.
I think it has the potential to be problematic if you go over the line and you disgust people who are kind of in the middle. I think there might be some people that stay home and cross their arms and are just fed up with the entire process.
O'Brien says there are few undecided voters at this stage of the race, but the campaigns aren't ready to give up on winning them over. Trump is scheduled to hold campaign events in North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada this week. Harris, who turned 60 on Sunday, is expected to hold a series of moderated conversations Monday alongside former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan in a bid to earn the support of swing voters, according to a campaign media advisory. Veronica Balderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
Since the U.S. Supreme Court sent the issue of abortion back to the states in 2022, Democrats have mobilized to protect abortion rights, while Republicans have worked to restrict the procedure on religious and moral grounds. U.S. congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has more.
This is the next important step for Nevada to protect reproductive freedom and particularly our abortion rights in this state.
Voters here in Nevada aren't just deciding between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris for president. They're also voting on question 6.
Then we hope we vote yes on 6. Thank you.
Laura Campbell is going door to door, telling people why she thinks a yes vote on question 6 is so important.
Abortion access actually saved my life more than once, and I just think it's important that after Roe v. Wade was overturned, that the state protects us.
But at an anniversary celebration for First Choice Pregnancy Services, a religious nonprofit providing alternatives to abortions, People like Deborah Costello are worried that Question 6 will pass.
The fight could seem overwhelming. Millions and millions of dollars in our state supporting the abortion industry.
Nevadans already voted in 1990 to make abortion legal up to 24 weeks. But Democrats fear a second Trump presidency could overturn those rights, even though Trump says the issue should be left for each state to decide. If Question 6 passes, the existing protections would become part of the state's constitution, making them even more difficult to remove.
We've seen lives are being lost across, 22 states have abortion bans, and we don't want that to happen in Nevada.
Jessica Ponce de Leon is a first-time U.S. voter. She planned to vote yes on Question 6 and for Kamala Harris even before Campbell knocked on her door.
I don't think that the government should have any say over women's bodies or any of that. I definitely feel like women should have total control over their body.
Nevada is one of 10 states this election year to give voters the choice to decide how and when abortion should be legal. In past election years, putting that issue on the ballot has boosted voter turnout and benefited Democratic candidates up and down the ticket. Christiane Mersch, a Brazilian immigrant who got pregnant in an abusive relationship and chose to keep her baby, is a board member of Nevada Right to Life.
Without life, there's no liberty, there's no other rights. If you don't respect life, there's going to be racism, human trafficking, and I just feel that we're disposable right now.
While the issue is motivating young voters, first-time voter Emily Costello says minds can be changed, and not all young voters will vote for Democrats.
If you can visually see how destructive that is to just a single human being, that'll change your mind instantly.
A nationwide survey released this week by independent health polling source KFF says a growing number of women cite abortion rights as their top issue since Kamala Harris became the Democratic nominee for president. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Las Vegas, Nevada.
We're continuing our series by VOA's Philip Alexiou on African-born Americans and their community participation in this year's U.S. presidential election. Today, we're introducing you to C. Vincent Iweanoge, chairman of the Governor's Commission of African Affairs in Eastern State of Maryland.
My name is Chukwunonso Vincent Iweanoge, fondly called C. Vincent Iweanoge, born in Nigeria. Came to the U.S. In the 2000s, and when I moved to Prince George's County, which is the richest black county in America, and also home to almost 23% of the African diaspora here in Prince George's County, and over 40% of the small businesses are African-owned. That's when I got a little involved, and I said, okay, I know we have all this population and all these businesses, but no representation. Even though I'm Catholic, however, the community, we have several faiths, which the Islam religion is one of them. So part of my duty is to be an ambassador for the government to the people, and also be able to take the issues of the community back to the government. A lot of us come from countries where government doesn't work. What I mean by that is that there are no social services, so that people do not expect anything from government. People don't believe in elections because they feel like it's elections and not election. So one of the things we've done is to first get our people registered to vote. But also, we're also pushing on the local level to also remember that the local elections are also critically important, because that's more determinant on how your everyday life works here in America.
The message is very simple. The election is in November. You can still register to vote if you haven't registered.
I've talked to a lot of people in the length and breadth in the DMV. They are very, very involved in the presidential, but not as much on the local. I'll say 60% of the people that I've spoken to, the top two are the economy and immigration. And then the other people are more so personal issues, religious, social, and all that stuff. But majority that I've spoken to is the economy and immigration. When government talks about immigration, the only group that I've mentioned is the Latinos, and nobody talks about the African immigrants. And we feel that we are the neglected class in that whole discussion. You know, the Africans feel like they go to the embassies in their different countries, buy the plane tickets, fly over here, and usually they are not the first in line because, again, most of them got here legally.
Alhaji Amara Sako, president of Jamilul Jalil. These past 2 years, I saw a lot of involvements in Prince George's County with the African diaspora. And we talked about with the immigrants, we talked about having stability because most of us comes here for opportunity.
When Africa works, the whole world works. What do I mean by that is Africa is home to 40% of the world's minerals. So there's no reason why the continent, should be considered poor. But I believe that in having conversations with some of the African leaders is that things have shifted from where Africa wants aid to where Africa wants partnerships. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, the mineral called lithium. So lithium is used in production of batteries. So as opposed to exporting lithium, raw lithium here, it will be great if those battery factories are built in the continent and they employ people there and the finished products, of course, will be shipped. But I believe that that should be where the next president should be looking to in relation to Africa. I like to think of myself as a community advocate for everything Black and also mostly the African diaspora.
Excellent. See Vincent Iweanoge speaking about the U.S. presidential election in his own words. Police clashed with protesters in Mozambique's capital, Maputo, on Monday, firing tear gas as hundreds took to the streets to protest the killing of opposition lawyer last week. Mozambican civil society election observer group More Integrity says the attack happened in the Bairro da Cup neighborhood of Maputo, killing Podemos party lawyer Elvino Diaz and party representative Paulo Guambe. The new opposition party, Podemos, and its presidential aspirant, Venancio Mondlane, are rejecting provisional results showing a likely win for Frelimo, the party that has ruled Mozambique for half a century, and its candidate, Daniel Chapo. For the latest on the protests in Mozambique, I'm joined live from Maputo by VOA Portuguese reporter Amancio Miguel Blanculos. Amancio, what more can you tell us about the protests and how authorities are responding?
Thank you, Esther. Actually, this happened this morning, and it was planned before the killing of the two young politicians. Here's what happened. After the initial results were announced here in Mozambique, Venancio Mondlane, who is a presidential candidate, came out and complained that the elections were rigged and called his supporters to go to the streets to protest. And today, when young people, mostly young people, started protesting, started chanting, saying Mozambique belongs to all of us, police came and started firing tear gas and also pepper spray. When they were trying to run away, police continued to chase them and continued with pepper spray. I have to mention here, Esther, that these young people who were protesting were not violent at all, but they did face strong violence from police. Some people were injured. Actually, 2 journalists were injured, and some people were detained by authorities accused of having this protest. And Esther, I have to tell you something else. It's like, I know how it feels to face pepper spray because I was there. I know how it feels tear gas because I was there. It's really very strong, and you saw people running away, trying to find a place to hide, also to clean their face.
Vilanculos, what legal action has the Podemos party taken so far following the assassination of Elvis Diaz?
Well, what Mr. Venancio Mondlane told us in the press conference is that, currently the party is busy preparing for the funerals, which are likely to happen tomorrow and the next day, which is Wednesday. And so far, the party has asked the authorities to have a proper, a fair investigation. That's something that many analysts doubt because Mozambique has an historic of not having proper investigation when it comes to opposition leaders who are being badly treated by authorities.
And quickly, when do we expect the final results of the presidential election?
As per the law, Esther, elections results have to be announced 15 days after the polls. So it means by the 24th this week, Mozambique Electoral Authority has to announce the results.
Thank you so much, Amancio. VOA's Amancio Miguel Vilanculos reporting live for us from Maputo. In Tanzania, unidentified people abducted, beat, and seriously injured Aisha Machano, a Chadema Party Women's Wing publicity secretary, before dumping her in a forest, according to her Chadema party. This attack comes 1 month after a similar abduction and murder of another of its party officials. Chadema says she was abducted in Kibiti town in the eastern part of the country while she was on official duties. Party officials say Machano is in the hospital being treated for her injuries. 2 Sudanese citizens are facing charges for running a guerrilla computer hacking group called Anonymous Sudan. The group declared a cyber war on the U.S. by targeting the FBI, Microsoft, and X, according to the Justice Department. They have been charged with conspiracy and computer damage for their coordinated cyber attacks beginning in 2023. For more insight, VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke with Jimmy Kinyonyi Bagonza, a data scientist and cybersecurity analyst.
From the IT security perspective, I would say there's no secure system on the planet. It's all about takes time and the motivation for someone to do so. So, like you've talked about the Anonymous Sudan, the brothers who were arrested in Sudan for having caused mayhem within the U.S. government. I remember there's some hospital in, I think it's in California, where they affected the services and a lot of people died because of not getting the emergency services. Back in Africa, for example, that is becoming more of a safe haven for hackers is because of the economic pressure on the youth. You will note that in Africa has the highest percentage of people under the age of around 30 in the youthful stages. And looking at it vis-a-vis the level of unemployment, which is also very high, this alone puts them into a situation of engaging in hacking activities. The motivation, because first of all, is the entry point into the hacking field or the cybercrime field is very, very low, the cost, if I may say, because online, all these tools are available online. You can get them online, you can learn the basics of cybersecurity online and being able to exploit them.
Does it take special skills for you to be so good at this that you are able to break into a system?
It takes time to cultivate the expertise to do that. So these tools are available online, yes, but you have to learn how to use them. And there are many resources online, like I've said, YouTube, TikTok, and so on. But then also more those that are more sophisticated, where now people have to get them on the underworld world, the cyber underworld world, where you have to access through specialized tools to access the underworld. People who trade in cyber tools. In fact, the Anonymous Sudan, they had also put their tool before they were arrested. It was also on the market underworld. And you find that on average, you'd say that buying a tool that will give you full access to a system or network, it is approximately around $300 in the cyber underworld world. So look at $300 vis-a-vis what you're going to reap out of it. So that is also another motivation. Just like I said, the entry point into the cyber world.
What does it mean for somebody to hack into a system and take people's data? You are a cyber security analyst. This is your space. What does it take to do that?
From layman's understanding, hacking into something more or less like someone entering into a house that is locked. For the motivation, they vary depending on what they want. Some of them are more financial, others are more of espionage motivated. For example, some of the groups are hired, more like mercenaries for hire to do a certain activity by government or state agents to achieve their political agenda. Others are financial agendas.
That was Jimmy Kinyonyi Bagonza, a data scientist and cybersecurity analyst, speaking to VOA's Paul Ndiho. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, lured by fake job ads, vulnerable women are becoming victims of sexual trafficking. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
In other news, the Sudanese Army says Abu Ghla Keikal, commander from its warring opposition, the Rapid Support Forces, has defected with some of his troops at the first such move by a senior figure since the two sides began fighting more than 18 months ago. The RSF later published a statement alleging that Keikal had switched sides after a deal. German prosecutors say they have arrested a Libyan man on suspicion of having links to the Islamic State group and planning to attack the Israeli embassy in Berlin with firearms. The 28-year-old suspect, identified only as Omar A., was arrested on Saturday at his home in Brno, just outside the German capital, according to the prosecutor's office. And the World Health Organization chief, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, is urging Rwanda to keep up its fight against Marburg virus. There have been 62 confirmed cases and 15 deaths in the outbreak, which was first announced in late September. No new cases have been detected in the last 6 days, and 44 people have recovered from infection. Lesotho has become a source country for human trafficking, according to a 2024 report by the U.S. State Department Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons. Many vulnerable women are lured to South Africa through fake job ads on social media, and upon their arrival, they are detained in prison-like conditions and are forced into slave labor, while others become victims of sex trafficking. Tuso Kumalo has the details.
A year ago, Bokang Musweu, a Lesotho woman, was lured to Maseru, Lesotho's capital, where she was promised a job. It turned out the job was fake, and she was forced to turn to prostitution in order to survive. In August this year, the 33-year-old went through a horrible experience. From this night spot, a client hired her for a service. On reaching the client's place, she was locked inside the room, brutally beaten and raped.
He didn't use protection. It's a rape because I didn't agree on unprotected sex. And then after that he slept, then I escaped from the place. Called the cab, went to the police. He was given a bail.
The mother of one says she was pushed into sex work by unemployment and hunger. She says many of her fellow sex workers have been trafficked to South Africa where they are turned into sex slaves.
That person who promised the work can gather the gents. Yeah, they buy, but I am not getting the money. Yeah, the money goes to that person. While I moved from here to one client and returning.
According to the 2023 Africa Organized Crime Index survey done by the Institute for Security Studies, Lesotho has become a source country for human trafficking. Non-governmental organizations working with women say some women, desperate to get work, are lured to South Africa through false work advertisements. Then, upon arrival in the country, they are forced to work as sex workers.
All those sorts of inhuman treatment that we can think about, because they first track them to stay there. Then they will encounter multiple sex with multiple partners that don't even, they're the clients of whoever.
The U.S. Department of State is urging authorities in Lesotho to provide more funding for the victims of trafficking and to step up investigations and prosecution of human trafficking crimes. On its part, the Lesotho government has increased awareness campaigns, established trafficking protection committees, set up an office to investigate cyber crimes, including trafficking, and embraced combating trafficking in persons in its binational commission of cooperation with South Africa. However, these measures have done very little to dismantle the human trafficking syndicates. Tuso Kumalo for VOA News, Maseru, Lesotho.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.